Hi everybody, this is Arkady Frekhtman. I'm a New York City personal injury trial attorney, and welcome to Last Week Tonight, where we answer your questions and we talk about your comments. It's all about you, the viewer, in this episode. So last week I did another episode where I discussed all the comments, I believe from about September 20th through September 27th. And today it's October 4th. So I'm going to try to do the comments from the last week, Wednesday to Wednesday, September 27th to October 4th. And if we have time, maybe we could jump back to before September 20th if there are any good comments in there, any good questions that I might have missed. Because, sometimes I do the recorded sessions like we're doing now. Sometimes I go live. And then, when I go live, of course, you guys can join live and you can interact. You can put your comments and then you can get your comments answered live and we could chat. So that's a little bit more fun. I'm going to try to do that again, maybe later this week. I'll try to do a live. I'm going to try to do the lives on Thursdays, and then the recording I just kind of do whenever I have a few free moments. So let's get into it. Let's see some of the questions. Here's a question from just 13 hours ago from Dwayne Carter, and he asks, "Hello, my lawyer filed a lawsuit on my behalf in May of this year. When I searched for it online, there's no record. Should I be concerned?" And, it's hard for me to say for sure if you should be concerned. It is a little bit concerning. I mean, it should be online. Although my first question would be, which city this is in. Because in New York, what could happen is you could file a lawsuit. And the reason you won't see it online is because a lot of the websites won't show it until you file something known as a request for judicial intervention, an RJI. Then it'll show up probably in sites like eLaw. Whereas other sites like the New York State electronic filing, known as NYSEF, the New York State electronic filing system, there I believe you could see it even if it was filed yesterday. So it depends on which site you're searching, if it's in New York. If it's not in New York, then I wouldn't know because I don't know how that state works. But then he also says that he received a copy of the complaint in the mail. So that's good. If you have a copy of the complaint, most likely it was filed. If it's from May, it's already like October. So you figure 5 months. He should have served it by now, unless the process server is having trouble serving it. Serving is when you take the complaint and you go out there and you serve the defendant. Maybe he's having trouble. Maybe the defendant moved, or the defendant doesn't have a good address, and sometimes you have to make a motion to extend your time to serve, or you have to do substituted service on the insurance carrier if it's a car crash case, for example, because you can't serve the defendant. So there are a lot of little pitfalls like that with law. So I can't give you a concrete answer, but that's a good question. And then Jermaine asks, "I'm looking to replace my lawyer. I need a lawyer that's going to go and fight for me. Can you please send me your number?" Yeah, absolutely. My number, and I give it out a bunch of times here in the chat and in some of the videos. It's the number you could text me, 347-566-9595. I'm happy to offer a consult. I might not be able to do it right away. Sometimes people text me and they're like, want me to get on right away, but I can't always do that. I try, but I'm a little bit busy. Like today I had a deposition in a traumatic brain injury case. I'm preparing for a trial that's supposed to go October 25th. We also had a settlement conference. I couldn't attend the settlement conference because I was in the deposition, but then we also have to have preparation meetings with the client, and I'm doing the trial with another co-counsel of mine in my office. So sometimes I have to go to different offices in the Bronx or in Brooklyn or in Manhattan. So it's getting a little busy, but the best way to do it is to send me a text, and then I may send you a link to a form. The form is real easy. It just has your name, your phone number, what happened, what are the facts, the brief, like a sentence or two, just so I could picture it happening. Is it like a car crash? Is it a slip and fall because of an unsafe condition? What happened? And then what is your injury? If you've been diagnosed, then I have a trimalleolar fracture, or I have an open reduction, or I have a spinal fusion. And if you haven't been diagnosed, if it happened recently, you might say, I have pain in my back, but I haven't really been diagnosed yet. It just happened recently. And then it'll also have the date of the incident. That will allow me to then help you, right? Because that'll give me the information that I need for the consult. And if I can't help you myself, because maybe you're in a different state, then it'll also tell me the date of your incident, whether you have a lawyer, all of these facts. And that'll be like, that'll be like power for me, right? That'll be like information that I could then use to help you. I can maybe give you one of my partners who's an excellent trial attorney in your city. So I could help you, but I need the information. So that form is really good. So if you could fill out that form, I'll probably text it to you. And I might drop a link in this video as well, just so you have the form if you just want to fill out the form right away. But probably the best thing to do is just to text me. That way, it'll be in my memory that and you give me your name too, and I can put your name in there. Then I'll know, hey, it's John, or it's Bob, or it's Samantha, whatever it is. Texting me, I know who it is. I have the number. I can text you back, or you fill out the form, and then we could set up a consult call. But I probably usually do the calls in the afternoons, probably like around 4 or 5 p.m. Maybe on towards the end of the week is usually good. Okay, and then another question. Hey, Mr. Frekhtman, how would a person know they have been given an offer on a personal injury case? Yeah, well, I mean, ideally, if you've been given an offer, your attorney is supposed to tell you, right? Because that's the rule. I think it's even unethical for the attorney not to tell you. Now, the only reason the attorney wouldn't tell you is because either it's like a nuisance value, it's really low, right? Like the attorney's going for $1 million, and maybe the other lawyer on the other side calls him up and says, I'll give you like $5,000. So he's like, that's insulting. I'm not even going to tell my client. But really, he's supposed to tell, or she's supposed to tell every offer to the client. So they're supposed to tell you. But that's really the only way you would know, unless you're like, representing yourself. You could, of course, send an email or a letter to the attorney. You could schedule a phone consult. You could schedule an in-person meeting or a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting and be like, hey, have there been any offers? They're supposed to tell you. Now, if you are self-represented, like a pro se plaintiff, then you would know because they would tell you directly, right? You don't have a lawyer. But if you have a lawyer, they would probably just tell the lawyer. The lawyer's supposed to tell you. But if the lawyer doesn't tell you, I guess that's possible. But I can't really see any reason why the lawyer wouldn't want to tell you, unless they just neglected to tell you. They're just busy and they just forgot about it, and it's possible. Okay, let's see what other questions. Here's a question. Thank you, Dr. Frekhtman. I'm a doctor now. All right. I like that. I'm not actually a doctor, but I'll take that. I like that. I complete parking Midtown Manhattan in May. My car behind me didn't pay attention. Take out street, other car hit him and hit my car. I have the MRI results. 2 bulging discs, 1 herniated disc, and a left knee meniscus problem. Injections. My knee is under treatment. Now the one guy has 100. I'm assuming it means 100,000. And the other driver 50,000. What are you thinking about this case? Well, it seems like a straightforward case. If you got rear-ended, it's straightforward. So then the car is at fault. I couldn't tell you exactly, how much you're going to get just from that. I'd have to look at the file. But if if you just want a consultation, you can always text me, the number I just gave, the 347-566-9595. Happy to just discuss it quickly. If you have a lawyer on it, if you're happy with them, that's fine. Just have them handle it. It sounds like a pretty straightforward case. I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Liability is good. I would have the lawyer file a summary judgment motion. That way you'll get 9% interest running, because it sounds like it's private vehicles. That would be 9% interest on the date of the judgment, to get the judgment as soon as possible. 2 bulging discs, 1 herniated disc. A herniated disc is pretty serious. It depends on what you end up doing for it. If you end up needing like pain management injections, could be worth the full $100,000 policy. I think he's saying the car that hit him had the 100, and then the other car might not be at fault. If they got rear-ended, they're probably not going to pay you anything. They didn't do anything wrong. They got hit in the back. It's the car that did the hitting that's going to pay. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. Lost in Awareness says, do you have any deposition videos that you've actually participated in that you can post? Yeah, I could look into that. I started videotaping depositions when I'm the one doing the questioning and I'm questioning the defendant. I started videotaping those depositions because then later, instead of having a boring transcript, and then imagine you're on trial, right? And you ask a question of a witness and you say, well, isn't it true that you guys had a complaint about, the puddle that my client slipped on? And they say, no, we didn't have any complaints. But then I have their deposition, and the deposition, they may say, yes, we did have a complaint. So now I could use that as what's known as impeachment, right? I could say, wait a minute. back in 2016, you were deposed, and on page 73, line 34, you were asked this question. Did anyone ever complain about that puddle on aisle 3? And you said, yes, I believe a lady had complained. But now you're saying they didn't complain, right? And I mean, it's good. But if you have a video, right? If you have a video, it's much better. So the way that a lot of the lawyers that I've been going to these continuing legal educations, the way they do it, and I think they can do it in New York too, they do it in other states, is that you ask them the question at trial, and if it's impeachable, but you have to, it's a lot of preparation, it's a lot of work, right? Because you have to have the clip, and then you have to play the clip, and then the jury actually sees that same witness testifying differently on the screen, right, in the courtroom. That's really good. But it's not that easy to do because you have to have a really good video editor, you have to be really organized, you have to have a transcript and a video script, I guess, right? A video where everything is clipped. And so it might be expensive to do, but on a big case, on a multi-million-dollar case, it might be worth it. But to answer your question, I mean, yeah, I probably do have a few depositions. I don't know if I'm allowed to just post them. If the case is over, maybe I can. I'd have to research that. Some of them could be interesting, or maybe I could watch over them and comment on them. I do see a lot of depositions just in the news, you know, depositions. Like I was watching a video about that Trump trial that's going on right now in New York, and they were playing a deposition of Michael Cohen, his attorney, and they were talking about one particular clip of Michael Cohen, and that was an interesting deposition. So maybe I could just watch some famous depositions or depositions available like on YouTube and comment on them and react to them. Could do that as well. Okay. Because, you know, basically depositions, they can go for a long time. I mean, the time limit now is 7 hours. So they could get a little boring, but sometimes you get into like the fun stuff, right? So that's why I was talking about clips, like the question, answer, the fun part, because sometimes it just gets boring. You talk about background, you talk about, or, you know, the doctor, you could be talking about medicine or whatever the expert specializes in. It can get a little boring. Okay. What other questions do we have? Gideon says, Arkady, if you received a very large sum of money, would you invest? How would you invest the money? Well, I'm not an investment advisor, you know, although I have done pretty well in the stock market, although I've lost money too, so I can't really say. But, you know, at one point I had invested in a biotech company. I think did really well. That was many years ago. I kind of stopped investing in the stock market. I kind of like now I think the best thing to invest in is really like yourself, right? If you're, for example, you have a case and you get into a large sum of money, like somebody gives you $1 million for a personal injury case. I would, if you're still able to do some kind of work, right? It doesn't have to be physical labor, but whatever you love, whatever you're passionate about, I would invest in yourself, right? Believe in yourself. You can't invest in anything other than yourself. Because if you're investing in, let's say, the stock market, what are you essentially saying? You're essentially betting that a company is going to do well, right? A company like Apple, let's say. You're assuming they sell these iPhones. So you're assuming, right? You're betting that these iPhones are going to sell a lot and they're going to make money and the share price is going to go up. But, you know, you can make some money with that. Or real estate, right? You're buying a pair of land or a house, you're renting it out, or you're doing the Airbnb, or you're appreciating it, fixing it up, right? And then selling it, flipping it. There's all ways to make money, all investments. But I think the best investment is really to invest in yourself, because whatever business you're passionate about, because you can't go wrong, right? Whether it's education, whether it's real estate. Some people are interested in real estate. They want to get into that profession, whether it's, you know, whatever it is. Some people want to open up a store, like a coffee shop, or open up many coffee shops, right? And go scale, whatever you're interested in. I think that's the best thing to invest in, because it really does two things. Number one, you could make money because you have a little bit of influx of capital. And number two, you could also be happy, right? Because instead of going to work for someone else and just slaving away and being like, is it 5 o'clock yet? I want to get out of here. Now you're enjoying yourself, right? Because you have your own business and you're doing something that you love. So I would invest in yourself. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. 4Z Logistics says, hey, Mr. Frekhtman, I was rear-ended by an 18-wheeler. I have a 4-level discectomy and disc fix and 2 epidural steroid injections I'm recovering now. The accident was in May. Do you know a range of settlement? And he says that it happened in Iowa City, Iowa. And he's saying that's probably a terrible venue and the discectomy was a cervical one. I mean, that sounds like a really good case. I mean, if it's an 18-wheeler, rear end, so again, you can get summary judgment, there's no issue of fault, and then you have a 4-level discectomy. That's pretty serious, 4 levels in the neck. I don't know if that also includes a fusion, where they put a plate and screws, because 4 different levels, that's pretty serious. And then epidural steroid injections. I'd have to get the policy limits, of course. I'm assuming, you know, if it's a tractor trailer, it should be at least $1 million. They might have excess or umbrella beyond the $1 million, so definitely get that. But that should be a really large case. And you feel free to text me. I'm happy to jump on a call and give you some personal advice. The 347-566-9595. Just tell me that's the case in Iowa. It's 4Z Logistics. If you give me your YouTube name or give me your real name, and I'll just call you back. Everything, of course, is confidential and private. But I would, you know, be happy to chat with you about it. And if you need an attorney, I know some excellent attorneys in Iowa that are actually some of the best in the whole country, because there's a group that I mentioned before, like Trial Lawyers for Justice. They're actually, I think one of their headquarters is in Iowa. So they're actually doing a lot of trials in Iowa. And the lead attorney's actually gotten some really big verdicts. What was it, 25 million in Iowa? And maybe, I know that there were a few verdicts for like 25 million, 30 million, really big numbers in Iowa. They were some difficult cases, but I think something like this may qualify as well with a neck surgery like that. I know that the cases I'm thinking of were more medical malpractice, but those are even harder, right? So this one would be easier to win. So it's a good case. Okay, and then Frankie says, I've been on workers' comp for 1 year and 10 months. I also have a third-party lawsuit. They left me with a malunion of my left shoulder blade and the inability to lift my arm overhead. Does that sound like a strong financial case? The last orthopedic surgeon I saw doesn't want to re-break it. Sounds like I'll be like this forever. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like a good case. I'd want to know like which city it's in. What's the third-party lawsuit? Like, what's the basis of liability? The workers' comp is going to pay you your lost wages and your medical bills, so that sounds like it's going fine. But what's the basis of the third-party lawsuit? But the fact that you have malunion is really serious. Yeah, that means that the bones didn't grow together. They didn't unify properly. And now it's always going to be like that, and you can't lift the arm. Yeah, that's a serious injury. That could be a permanent, life-changing, forever injury. That can definitely be worth, millions and millions of dollars as long as the coverage is there. So I would definitely like look into that and just text me if you want to have a consult. 347-566-9595. Just shoot me a text. Tell me it's Frankie. Give me the same thing. You could just the same thing you put here. That'll jog my memory, and then I'll be happy to jump on a call. Okay. And then Mike Jordan Groupie asks, hi Arkady, I would love to promote your channel seriously. I have a question. Who, if necessary and when necessary, should prepare a life care plan or planner for the injured party with a total, long-lasting and or permanent disability? Yeah, so I mean, the life care planner usually is someone that's hired by the plaintiff's attorney. And what they'll talk about is they'll talk about things, and together with a doctor, right? So it'll be a doctor, and they'll examine the plaintiff, the injured party, and they'll talk about future medical care, and they'll kind of like plan out the life, like how much is physical therapy going to be? How much is the surgery going to be? How many times will they need physical therapy per week? For how long? And then the economist will work with the life care planner to give all those numbers. Maybe I'll do another video all about life care plans. I had a life care planner on the last case, the case that we settled for $3.5 million in the Bronx. I had a life care planner on that case. So I could take that life care plan and, just kind of read it over and then talk about it just to give you guys some answers about how they work. But yeah, usually the lawyer just hires the life care planner. And it's pretty straightforward. It usually works together, like I said, with the economist. And actually, I was on a continuing legal education with a life care planner as well as an attorney from New Jersey. This was at the New York City Trial Lawyers University that they had at the end of September. And it was an interesting session. I have my notes from that session. That could be another topic for a video. I just have to find the time to go through those notes and maybe outline them and then do some videos. Because what they were talking about there were novel ways to then increase the value, right? Because they were talking mostly about wrongful death cases, but they were saying that a lot of people only focus on the economic loss, like the lost salary, but then there's everything else that could be in a life care plan, like the value of household services, or if you have somebody who died due to wrongful death, there could be something known as loss of guidance, right? So you lost that guidance from your father or your mother, whoever died, but now you might have to hire a counselor, and then some economists will put that into the life care plan that you're now going to have to hire a counselor, like a psychiatrist or a psychologist to replace that guidance and all these other things that, or like, for example, comfort, right? Something like you may not always be calling your mother, right? Especially if you're an adult, right? Like if you're a 40-year-old adult, you're not going to be calling your mother every day. Maybe some people do, or you're not going to be calling your father every day, right? If you're an adult. But the fact that they're available, right? The fact that they're there, even if you live on the other side of the country, you might live in California, your father might be in New York, you can call them if you need to call them, right? They're there. But once they pass away, you don't have that ability anymore. So it's almost like one of those subscription services. You subscribe because you want to have the ability to, like, almost like insurance, right? You don't necessarily want to have insurance, but you subscribe because you want to have the ability. If you get into a car crash, you're going to get your car fixed. You're going to get, so it kind of worked. They were giving all these examples. I have to look over my notes, but it was very interesting. It was very creative, all about like life care plans and an economist. And like I said, it was an attorney and an economist, so they were working together. And I thought there was some interesting things that you guys might be interested in as well. Okay, let's see what other questions. Ian Hollandhead says, "Love your videos. Finally stumbled across them after a bunch of searching, and you are one of the only few lawyers who feels trustworthy on here. There are way too many other lawyers on here that spam YouTube with a bunch of 3-minute fluff content where they say, 'It depends, call me.' I'm definitely liking as much of your stuff as possible to boost your rank." Oh, thank you so much. And I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I try to give as much value as I can. I mean, sometimes I do have to say, like, call me because, and it's not because I don't want to give you the answer. It's more because, the comment is kind of short, and, I could maybe guess at what it most likely will be, but I don't want to give you like a 70% answer. I want to give you a 100% answer. That's why it's better to contact me and we could do a consultation. But yeah, I mean, I do know what you mean. Like I did watch a bunch of, sometimes I go on YouTube and I search like lawyers myself because I'm looking for like fresh content. I'm looking for new ideas. And I do see a lot of people just doing the old, "Have you been injured? Call me." It's kind of like, kind of getting a little bit old. But there are some interesting legal channels out there. I see a lot of legal channels that talk about current events, like the trial with the Take Care of Maya trial that's going on now, and the Donald Trump trial, and some other famous trials. A lot of criminal lawyers, civil rights lawyers that do like lives and they talk about cases. Attorney react videos, they react to various things. So I'm going to try to see if I can get into that a little bit to maybe keep it interesting, because I don't want to be always talking about, "Oh, have you been, car accidents?" But I know that a lot of people do care about car accidents or about personal injury because they either were involved in an accident or they have a loved one that was involved in an accident. So they want to know about it and they want to see how the process works. So yeah, we could definitely do a bunch more videos about that. But thank you, I really appreciate that. Let's see, what other questions do we have? David Smith says, "Hi, what's your number?" Yeah, let me respond. Put in my number, 347-566-9595. You could text me anytime. And then Life Lit says, "I had a drunk driver hit my vehicle head-on collision while I was on my way home. I have a torn rotator cuff, labrum tear in the other shoulder, a bulging disc in the neck, and it pops when I move it now. With pain every night from sleeping, and my shoulder down to my pinky go numb when I'm laying at a certain angle in my back. So far, therapy 3 times a week, PRP in the labrum, tear of the shoulder, and I'm considering a rotator cuff surgery to fix the shoulder. I also have a lower back pain with popping sound, awaiting MRI. What is the roundabout number for this case to settle?" Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a serious case. Now, I couldn't tell you exactly. I know in the comments I said we had major shoulder surgery. Like if you end up having this surgery, if it's a serious shoulder surgery, we've had them go for even like 750,000 and in that range. But really, the best thing to do is to text me, the 347-566-9595. I could get on a call and see exactly, because I don't know which city it's in, what the liability is, although it sounds like good liability. A drunk driver, head-on collision, sounds like good liability. With those injuries, it should be significant. Find out how much coverage there is too, because I could tell you, hey, 750, but maybe the guy only has 100,000, right? Or maybe the drunk driver only has like 100,000. It could be lower coverage. But if the coverage is there, if the insurance is there, that could be a big case. That could even get into the 7 figures if it's developed correctly. So it's really important to develop the case correctly and build it and make it as strong as possible. Okay, and then Joe Nguyen says, I had a case from my husband's wrongful death and medical negligence. What happens if I have another case with my husband's sister for property rights and the defense wants to have the deposition from her for a couple of hours? Is it going to affect my husband's case? Because I think it's a conflict of interest between me and her. So property rights. I don't think it would affect it. I mean, they could maybe get the transcript and use it, but I don't see how one case has anything to do with the other, because wrongful death and medical negligence would be medical malpractice. That would be against the doctor. Property rights would be more like I don't know, it's not an estate issue but I would definitely defer to the lawyers handling the case, ask them, because that's more of like a case specific question that I would be guessing at. But I don't see how it would affect one case would affect the other. But I'm sorry to hear that happened. Yeah, I'm wishing you all the best. Okay, what other questions do we have? Here's a question or a comment from a Sarah Cooper about my video warning what every patient must know about medical negligence. That was a medical malpractice case that I talked about. It was actual trial, and then there was an appeal. That was the appendix, where they didn't see the appendix, or the allegation was that they didn't see that it was appendicitis. But originally it was like a gynecological issue. So they were trying to rule out the gynecological issue. And then she's a sonographer herself. And she was talking about that she gave a very insightful comment that the radiologist doesn't order the scans or consults with the patient directly. The patient's doctor has to do that. So the sonographer would scan the patient, and then the radiologist would read the films, which is accurate. And then she goes, an appendix ultrasound is not typically ordered on an adult because it could be extremely hard to visualize and is not sensitive to a positive finding. So it's like she's kind of agreeing with, I guess that's the defense perspective, right? That's what they were saying. They were basically saying that medically he didn't say that he saw the appendix. He was just saying that it's not gynecological. But yeah, I guess it gets very technical with medical malpractice. You have to almost be a doctor and a lawyer in order to be able to understand this. So yeah, that particular case, she did recover some money. I'm not sure exactly. There was a percentage that was assigned to one of the doctors, and I think she recovered money for that percentage. They settled with her. They didn't say in the article that I read how much the settlement was for, but it probably was for a few $100,000. And then the other doctor, the actual radiologist, or the one who ordered the sonogram, he was let out of the case. The jury said he was responsible. They gave him a percentage, but then the appeals court said that he's out of the case because he never. The other doctor who could have, because he's the radiologist, right? He just reads the film. He tells you what he sees in the film. He doesn't have any connection with the patient, right? Which is what this Sarah is saying. So it makes sense. So that's why he was let out, because the main doctor who actually had the power to then send the patient to the hospital, right, to rule out appendicitis, she said that she never even relied or even read that radiological report. So then, there's no causation. You can't say that his mistake caused anything if the doctor who, doesn't even rely or read his report. So yeah. And Gary Piat asks a question. Here's a question. Any idea what insurance coverage a major truck stop chain would carry for personal injury to a customer, trip and fall, caused by improper asphalt patchwork at a truck fuel island? It occurred 10 months ago, torn rotator cuff and bicep tendon surgery done, but both failed. Now I need a total reverse shoulder replacement surgery. I have been in almost constant pain, awaken nightly from pain, and lay awake for hours. Oh, I'm sorry to hear. That's terrible. Owner-operator losing $22,000 a month and average revenue to the truck, had to sell the business. And per the doctor, it's a permanent disability and can never drive a truck. Front axle weight over 50,000 pounds again. Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that. So yeah, what I would recommend is, I couldn't really tell you how much insurance they have. If you have a lawyer, just have the lawyer serve them with a request for insurance information. In New York, actually, there was another continuing legal education by a judge, and I actually have the outline right here. This was Judge Deborah Karalunas. She did a continuing legal education. It was an annual update, and one of the things she talked about was that the CPLR, which is the Civil Practice Law and Rules, those are the rules that everybody follows. There's two new additions, right? There's CPLR 3101F and CPLR 3122B, and they both deal with insurance coverage. And what they essentially say is that effective December 31st, 2021, within 90 days of filing an answer, so that means you file a lawsuit, now they file an answer, they appear in the case. So within 90 days of filing an answer, a defendant must provide proof of the existence and complete contents of any insurance agreement under which any person or entity may be liable to satisfy part or all of a judgment that may be entered in the action, or to indemnify or reimburse. So basically it includes everything, right? It includes primary, excess, umbrella policies, and self-insurance programs. So they have to tell you everything, and the disclosure must be accompanied by 2 certifications in the form of an affidavit or affirmation as appropriate from the defendant, the person or the company you're suing, and from the defendant's attorney. So both of them are going to have to give you affidavits and tell you. So, you're probably, it doesn't sound like you're in New York, but in other states, they have to tell you too. Every state has their own rules. I don't know the intricacies of, every state's rules on this, but there's no state where if you ask for the insurance information, they don't have to tell you. That's one of the things that you're entitled to know. So I would just get that information and you should be good. But that sounds like a great case. If you wanted a consultation about anything or a recommendation for an attorney, if I may know somebody in your city, just text me, 347-566-9595. But yeah, you can just ask them in a request for production. They have to tell you. And then I think I told him, thank you for watching. And he was saying, could you maybe do one more video about how requiring additional surgeries and additional physical therapy and prolonged pain and suffering may affect the settlement? As I stated earlier, I had my injury 11 months ago. I had a surgery, but it failed, and now I have to have a shoulder replacement. And he's represented by a law firm, and he's hoping that they're doing a fine job for his wife and him, but they don't do great videos. So yeah, I'm definitely, happy to help. If you want to text me. Oh, and he also said that he asked the team representing him questions based on information that he learned or gleaned from viewing some of these videos. Yes, I'll just reply. Yeah, that sounds like a serious case. Yeah, that should be a. Hopefully, there's enough coverage, because with enough coverage, that could be a multi-million-dollar case. Total shoulder replacement is real serious. We had a lady with a total elbow replacement. She was an older lady in her 70s, and it was a trip and fall, so it wasn't even easy liability. But we settled it for close to $2 million. So this case, I'm thinking should be maybe even more than that. Because remember, like we talked about just now with the life care planner and the economic damages. The thing that's powerful about this case is that if he's really losing $22,000 a month, he can hire an economist and a life care planner, right? So he has the lost wages, plus he has the pain and suffering. And then not to mention the whole human story, the whole, how I was before, with the wife, with the kids, with the painting a picture of their life. So that could be an absolute monster case. That could be, many, many millions of dollars. Okay. Let's see what other questions we have. Off topic, but what happens when a defendant in a car accident lawsuit switches their insurance and is not cooperating with their previous insurance that they had when they caused the accident? I mean, if they don't cooperate, they have to cooperate. That's one of the, you want them to cooperate initially, right? Because if they don't cooperate at all, it may not be good in the sense that, although I don't think they could argue that, they're going to disclaim because of that. They still have to provide coverage. So then if they don't cooperate once the lawsuit already starts, and although they have the coverage and the insurance company is, admitting that there is coverage, and then they hire a defense lawyer, if then they stop cooperating, they just go like AWOL, they just disappear. We've had that happen a bunch of times. That's actually not bad for you, because then you just make a motion and you strike their answer and you preclude them from testifying. So then the only person that's going to testify in the trial is you, right? And your witnesses, and the defendant who caused the crash isn't going to be testifying anymore, since it's kind of like a default. They just didn't show up. So that could be good for you. But the insurance company is still going to pay you. In fact, they might pay you more since they don't have a client. Okay, let me see if I could do one or two more questions. See if I could get a question that's interesting for everybody. Here's a question. Is open reduction and internal fixation of the right distal tibial plafond intra-articular fracture and open reduction internal fixation of right distal fibula minor? It's to my understanding that it's a serious injury. Doctor put that in a medical report. No, that's very serious. Any kind of open reduction internal fixation is serious, because what they're essentially doing is the fracture is so serious that they can't just fix it. It's not going to heal on its own. So they have to go in there and they have to reduce the fracture. They have to fix everything. They have to put in a plate, right? And screws into the bone. And sometimes they then remove the plate and screws. So it's two surgeries. Sometimes they just leave it in there. But it's very serious. It causes limitation of motion, range of motion deficits. It causes arthritis to come earlier, more painful. And plus the fact that you have to have the surgery or surgeries. We've settled cases like that. I had one client who had open reduction internal fixation, known as ORIF, on both legs from a fall. And I believe we settled that for $1.3 million. So they could definitely be, I would say the range is anywhere from, on the low end, if there's some kind of problem, it could be like 300, 400,000. And on the high end, it'd probably be like into the millions, like 1.5, 2 million and up. Sometimes the only reason the ORIF cases go for less is because the liability is tough. Like, for example, this week we had a case where a lady, she fell on the sidewalk, but for whatever reason, she didn't hire a lawyer right away. She didn't call anyone. She didn't take a photo of what caused her to fall. She said it was a raised sidewalk, like one of the squares was higher than the other, but she didn't do anything, right? And then like 4 or 5 months later, she contacts us. We file a lawsuit against the landlord. We're litigating the case. We had a mediation. She ended up having a fracture and with this ORIF, but we had to settle it for $400,000. Now, it's not chump change. It's not terrible, but I would say that injury is worth way more. But the reason we had to settle it for $400,000 is because she doesn't have any proof that this even happened, right? There's no photo of the unsafe condition. And you go there now, it's all fixed. It just looks normal. We don't even know, was it fixed by the landlord or by the management company? Or was it like that, maybe it was never broken. Maybe she got, maybe she made a mistake, or, I'm hoping she didn't make a mistake as to the location. She said that was definitely where it happened. But you know what I mean? It was a problem on liability. So because you have a difficult liability case, that will discount the damages and make you you have to take less, right? Because you don't want to risk it. Now, if you say, hey, what? I don't want the 400. I want to go 4 million. You go to court, but what proof do you have? You have no proof. You don't have a photo of the unsafe condition. All you have is her word. There's no corroborating witnesses. No one else has ever seen it. The defendant will say, we don't know anything. Nothing was ever broken. you could lose, you get zero, right? And it's not worth it. Plus she was an older lady. She was in her like mid 70s. So it made sense to settle. But that's just an example how that could be an interesting topic for a video too, how discounting, you discount damages because of liability. Or, I mean, it could work. I don't know if it would work vice versa. Nah, it doesn't really work vice versa. It really, you discount the total amount, right? The settlement goes down if you have trouble with liability. I mean, obviously, if you have trouble with damages, that's a little different. If you don't have damages, that means you're not that hurt. That's good in terms of your health, right? You don't want to be very hurt. I mean, of course, then the value will be lower. But usually that's how it works. If you have a difficult liability case, then they'll pay you less. Now, if you had a good liability case, if it was that same case, but she gets hit by like, I don't know, Coca-Cola truck with $10 million insurance, like runs her over, and she has that same injury, I'll go to trial and get like $2 million for her. I'm not going to sell it for $400,000, but it is what it is. So you have to take each case as it is and evaluate all the facts and circumstances of each case. It's almost like a little jigsaw puzzle, right? You have to put all the pieces together for each case, and they're always different. And then someone says 7 years for $200,000. I mean, she got something, but if this situation was weighed out, it seems like a low ball. She should have contacted you. Oh, he's talking about that video I did about the medical malpractice. Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I would have done any better. That's just a tough case. But it's possible. No, but thank you for the vote of confidence. Absolutely. And then Reginald says, it seems like she's 50 to 75% at fault. Again, talking about the medical negligence. Yeah, that's a case that's tough. Yeah, that's definitely a case that's tough. Let's see what other questions we have. And then maybe we could end this video. We're at 40 minutes already. Wow, time flies. Let me try to see what other questions. We're into 5 days. So maybe I wanted to do the whole week, but I guess we had a lot of comments this week. It's hard to do all of them in one video. Here's a question from Davis, and he says, I have a pretrial in October from 2016 accident that cost me a spinal fusion surgery. Insurance has offered me something under $800,000, but it's not worth much what we think it's worth. Do you think we can settle on a pretrial? Thank you for all the information you shared with us. Yeah, I mean, I don't know like where this is, which city or any of the details, but cases do settle in pretrial, and sometimes they settle once you pick a jury, because now you have a jury. Now it's like you're putting their feet to the fire, kind of like if they don't pay you what it's really worth, then the jury is going to perhaps award a larger amount, right? So you have them in the corner. So that's always good. And then sometimes cases just settle on the phone. Sometimes cases settle at mediation. There's no real rule like that where I could tell you exactly what's going to happen at the pretrial. But definitely, if you need any more information, just text me. I'm happy to jump on a call and answer any questions you may have. Let's see what other questions we have. When's the next time you go live? Okay, probably this week. I'm going to try to do it this week, maybe Thursday of this week. And then Mike says, your videos are a goldmine of information. We appreciate your work and we thank you for caring about all of us and supplying us with valuable knowledge. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's a really nice thing to say. Hello from Texas. My question is, what about a hit and run from an 18-wheeler? If the truck's fault, over $2,500 in damage, I was a passenger, the driver failed to stop at a stop sign while we had the right of way in a residential area. We had to follow him for 8 miles. The city police had to meet up with us. Yeah, I mean, that's a good case. We do a lot of 18-wheeler cases. 18-wheeler cases are great cases. And, if it's not in New York, if this is in Texas, I'm a member of the American Truck Accident Attorneys. They actually just had a symposium last week. I couldn't attend, but I'm going to go next year. This year it was in Atlanta. Next year it's in Tennessee. I'm going to go next year. But I watch some of their, I'm a member, so I watch a lot of their webinars, and they talk about some of the same information. And they have all these different topics about 18-wheelers. But yeah, that sounds like a good case. I mean, I don't see any issues with it. You're a passenger. You didn't do anything wrong. The driver failed to stop for a stop sign. That should be summary judgment on liability. I don't know what the injuries are. It doesn't mention anything about the injuries and which city in Texas. So feel free to just text me, and I'll be happy to help. And then Jeffrey says it's a #1 personal injury attorney on the East Coast. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And then Notarant says, wow, you read the last question I asked. Thanks for the info, Mr. F. Yeah, you were very welcome. Well, that's what this is all about. That's what Last Week Tonight is all about. We read your comments and we answer your questions. And then Vishnal says, in my case, truck policy is $2 million. I'm sure there is an excess or umbrella. Once my lawyer gets the discovery from the other party, can you sue for more since the medical bills are over $1 million? Yeah, definitely. I mean, if the medical bills are over $1 million, absolutely. But what I like to do is tell the human story, like the impact to your life, because the medical bills are always secondary. You don't want the medical bills to be an anchor, because even if it's $1 million, they could anchor the case down. If the medical bills are $1 million, but what's the overall loss of enjoyment of life? What's the human story? Kind of like your before versus your after. That could be huge. It could be a really big, case. So you want to get all the policy limits, find out how much insurance there is. But there should be excess and umbrella. That'll be great. And, again, feel free to text me if you have any questions. 347-566-9595. That way we can jump on a call, talk about the case, and give you some good advice. And then someone says, can you talk about products liability cases? Sure, absolutely. I could do a video about those. Absolutely, I'll do that. And then Lord's Child says, in the negotiation process now, it's very stressful and aggravating. Yeah, no, good luck. I hope you get the absolute maximum you can. It doesn't necessarily have to be stressful. It just depends on how your attorney handles it. I like to always flip the script on them and tell them, look, this is the fair number. If you don't want to pay it, that's fine. And I'm just going to go to trial. I got my marching orders. I'm just going to go to trial. That way it gets them worried, right? Because otherwise, yeah, what they try to do is whittle you down. Oh, you're asking for so much. Like just today we had a case. And we were, a pretty serious case, not anything crazy, but serious injuries. I think it was a discectomy, truck crash, not the best venue. And they said, what's your demand? I said, look, $850. And it was just kind of off the record, just talking settlement because it's kind of a new case. And they said, oh my God, $850, that's so high. We'll offer you $25,000. So I'm not gonna. What they try to do is whittle you down. They say, oh, $850 is too much. I'll offer you $25. Why don't you come back with $200 and maybe we could settle it for $150. And a lot of people are interested in that because they think, oh, it's $150,000. I'm going to make $50,000. Let's do it. But I don't really think that's fair because a case could be worth much more. So what I like to do is really evaluate the case and set the value and say, look, this is what it's worth. If you want to pay me this within 30 days, pay it. If you don't want to pay it, if you think it's worth less, but in that range, okay, let's talk turkey. Let's actually, in good faith, negotiate and settle it. But if you're going to say that, I'm asking for too much, $850, you're going to give me $25, and you're going to think that I'm going to jump down into your ranges, and I'm going to settle it on the cheap, you got another thing coming. That's not what I'm about. That's not what I do. So that's really important to have a lawyer who's willing to go to trial and not back down to the insurance companies. Okay. All right. I think we covered most of the questions. If we missed one or two questions, just feel free to, text me directly or leave another comment. When you're leaving the comments, just, make sure you put which city you're in. Like I said, the facts, just like what happened and your injury information. Then I can give you more feedback, That's what I need from you in order to give you better responses, because it's the better the question, the better the response, right? Just like with anything. If you don't have the information, then you can't really give the answer because then you're guessing, and you don't want to be guessing in serious matters like these. Okay, please like and subscribe to our channel. We are here for you. Our goal is helping serious injury victims and families, and we're here to help you. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.